years of my life. I think that they have been. And I started to get really sad. I got really, really sad. And I don't get sad that often. I'm a relentless optimist, but I learned through therapy that my coping mechanism is that I can be what is it? I can be emotionally dismissive, like I can dismiss my own emotions so I can focus on getting the job done. So you bury yourself like in your work and stuff like that. And there was another part too. Something about attachment style. I forgot what it was. I forgot. Y'all, some of y'all might remember because I think I might have mentioned it. But anyway, so I was like, okay, I don't want to be emotionally dismissive. I want to have my emotions. I want to feel them, right? And that's really hard because you have a fear of like getting stuck in this dark place. You know what I mean? Like where you get sad and you can't get out of it. And I don't like that. That feels like a loss of control for me. So I was really sad and I was like all up in it. And I last night I just went to bed early and it was like 10 o'clock or something. And normally I'd be up and I'd have stuff I gotta do. And and my wife was like, "Are you okay?" I said, I don't know, man. Like, I was like that. So I just went to bed. I just went to bed because I think a good nap cures a lot of problems. Hey, I'm telling you, like if you're ever having a bad day, just go take a nap. I learned that in college. So I just went to sleep. But I got up at 4:30. I felt my batteries recharged. And I said, okay, we're gonna face it, and we're gonna go out here. We're gonna have a great day. So I got up, and this morning, me and my wife ran 6 miles because we're training for a half marathon, and I've been working like literally. I think I got up at 4:30, and I've been going since 4:30. So I've had almost kind of like almost a full day, and it works. It really works. So I want to encourage everybody out there. I'm just telling you, not that y'all care about all my personal nonsense, but I just want to encourage you. Like however you're feeling, if you're feeling down, I think that there's always kind of a way out. There's always a way to kind of process it in a way where you're going to be better at the end, and that's been my journey. But like the 2023 was the year I was, I was watching my mother. Suddenly, my whole family just fell apart. My mother's cancer diagnosis comes, and then the whole year we're like watching just everything just fall apart. Like literally just everything. And she's falling down, and it's just all this stuff. You don't want to watch mama fall down. Some of y'all have gone through this, so you know what I'm talking about because a lot of people are getting cancer. And then 2024, I think we had a little bit of false hope. She got a surgery. They declared her cancer free, and that lasted for about 6 months until the cancer came back. And so the first reaction is like, oh, does that mean that there's like another surgery? Like what does that mean? And it's like, no, this one isn't gonna go away. It's just like, okay, we ain't going through chemo again. And then it's like, oh wait, you mean mama's gonna die? And you're like, well, hold on, wait a minute, mama can't die. That's not possible. I don't know if everybody knows what I'm talking about. You're like, that's not, no, no, no. That's enough. Keep going. What's your next solution? And then, so then she, at the end of the year, she succumbs. She eventually dies on Christmas Eve of all days, right? And then the following year, my father has had just the hardest time dealing with all this. So his decline began. Like, well, it had already begun, but it just accelerated. And so, long story short, I said, I think the last 3 years have been the worst 3 years of my life. But then it's like you get older and it doesn't really, I mean, you get older and your friends start dying and you get closer to death. So I said, okay, I got to find a new strategy to kind of process this, right? So that's my life. So anyway, enough of that nonsense. Enough of y'all. I don't want y'all to have to hear all that all day. I ain't trying to make nobody sad because I'm not sad. Don't be sad because I'm not sad. I am actually okay. I'm just processing out loud, and thank you for allowing me to do that. All right. So with that said, Chanel is in the chat. And Chanel is part of our support team, and she's awesome. And she is also available if you have questions about anything that you're doing in the Black Business School. We'd like to be part of your wealth journey as we make you into the economic superstar of your family. She is one of the people that would love to co-pilot you to the heights of your economic destiny. In case you don't know, just as a reboot, in the Black Business School, we believe in what is called the Black Core of Three, which is that Black people should educate our own children, create our own jobs, and support Black-owned businesses. Also, we believe that children should be taught wealth from birth. We also believe that the pathway for economic power for our people, B1 people, and that's Black first. You ain't got to be Black to be Black first. As long as you understand why we're here, then we accept everybody. And we believe that ownership and investing is the key to economic power. not just going to school and getting a good job, because we got a whole lot of educated people that got good jobs and they didn't build any wealth. Their net worth was actually negative. You're not supposed to go to school 4 years and work 40 years and then have a negative net worth. That does not make sense. That's not mathematically nor is it logically sound. So we have to really reconstruct and reconsider our economic models. Why am I sharing this? Well, because if you know my background, my doctorate was at the Ohio State University and it was in finance. So I understand economic models pretty well. And I believe that the Black economic model not only must it be shifted, but it must be radically shifted in a way that is consistent with the unique experiences of Black people. So every now and then I'll hit the reset button and I might explain that. Some of you already know every single thing I just said, but I have to hit that reset button to make sure we know why we're here and what we're doing and why it's different, right? This is not just, like you're not attending the University of Iowa. You're getting something here that's just I think it's pretty revolutionary. We've never, my wife, who has her doctorate in social work, and she's been a therapist for over 20 years, and she's a certified trauma expert. There's never been a linkage in terms of studying how childhood trauma affects investing, spending habits of Black people as we get older. And we created that Black financial therapy department. There is no other place where financial therapy is being done. It needs to be done on a mass scale in a lot of places. So that's what we do. That's who we are, and I think it's important to start there. Now, here's where let's jump into today's topic. Okay, so by the way, so Chanel's in the chat, and she's going to share links if you want to study stock options with us in January. The coin program starts then, or if you want to join the mastermind, she can give you information to apply for the mastermind. So, good morning, Chanel, and good to see you again. All right, so here's the thing. Um, so, how many of you heard? Give me a yes if you heard that Trump is gonna. It's not just Trump, but it's the Trump administration is going to start to garnish wages for student loans. Anybody hear about that? Let me know if you heard about that. And I'd be curious to know how many of you actually have student loans. I bet a lot of you do. It's a common thing. It's pretty common and expected and acceptable to borrow money, go to school. It happens a lot. It's just gotten a little bit out of control. Some statistics on student loans that I find to be quite alarming, they bother me as a college professor, is that Americans owe about 1.7 trillion in student loan debt. So this is a record high. It's never been this high before. It's higher than credit card debt and auto loan debt combined. 45 million people are carrying student loan debt. That's one in every five U.S. adults. So this is a financial STD that has affected millions of people, and it doesn't go away. And the reason I compare it to a financial STD is because what they did that was so sinister. These are your politicians for you. Is years ago they worked with Democrats and Republicans to pass a law declaring that you can declare bankruptcy on any kind of debt except for your student loan debt. Like you can't. I think also tax debt might be in there too. I got to double check if I think tax debt too. But basically, your student loan debt, they're like, no, 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 you can't get rid of that. You're stuck with that for life. And that is, in my view, that could be defined as a type of financial slavery because what you're doing is you're putting up a block, you're locking people, you're boxing people in. And so you have a whole, like, sort of this mass generation of what I would consider to be corporate sharecroppers. And sharecropping is a perfect analogy because with sharecroppers, what they would do to make them work the land is they would put them so deep in debt that they'll never get out of debt. So you think you're working your way out of debt, but you're not working your way out of nothing. You're just going to work yourself into a grave. You're going to work until you die, and that's the goal, right? But you think you're working yourself out of debt because the way you keep people motivated is you give them false hope, right? So this is why I sound like a little bit of a cynic, but I'm very, very disturbed and irritated when I hear politicians trying to give people hope when everything they're presenting is basically hopeless, right? And so ultimately, let's see here. 1 in 4 borrowers is in default, delinquency, or not making payments. 1 in 4. That's crazy. And that's higher, and it's much higher for Black people. I mean, half of all Black college graduates default on their student loans. That fact alone explains about 70% of why Black wealth has never gone up, despite the fact that you have more educated Negroes than you've ever had in human history. You never had this many black people go to college, right? And again, the false hope kicks in because you're trained to believe that education is the American dream and that this is going to make the difference and you got to go to college because college is going to and college is great. I mean, college is fun. We got one in college. She's home for Christmas and she's having a great time. And we got actually, so I'm sorry, we got two in college. One that just started. One's hopefully he's going to finish soon. And we got no problem with him going to college. One thing though that we did do was even though we're not poor people, I have money, their mother has money, their biological father has money, but all three of us are on the same page and we said we're not going to overpay for this nonsense. We're not writing 80,000, $100,000 checks every year for you to go to school. We could if we tried, but it's not worth it. But we will write a small check, sure. Because college is okay. College, here's the thing. I need everybody to understand this because I think it's very important because sometimes we get mad and we want to write off something. We want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Look, college is cool. College is so beneficial in so many ways if it's used in the right way. Would you agree with that? How many of you had a good time in college? How many of you look back at college and you think about your school days and you're glad you went? You had a great time. You met amazing people. You got some connections. It was a good experience, right? College is not it's not just all frat parties and drinking beer and that's honestly that's mostly what the white people did in my school. I mean, don't get me wrong, you had some crazy black people too, but we're not into all that. It's like, I mean, when I was on the faculty of Syracuse, I was stunned by the types of drugs that those kids would take. And I was like, you put that in your body? You took your grandma's medication and you just took it just to see what would happen? How bored are you? Like, what is wrong with you? But they would do that. They would take drugs. They'd be like, well, he got high on ambromethylazine. I'm like, what is that? I never heard of that. I know about weed and liquor and 40 ounces but that's just not what black people do. I'm sorry. That's not culturally, typically, that's not something, so anyway, college can get pretty wild, but college can also be just stimulating and fun it's really great. I've had multiple kids. I watch how they transition when they go to college. Like my daughter, I went to visit in Denmark. I remember telling her, I said, I really didn't know how to really talk to you when you were in high school because high school kids are a little bit weird and they just think everything they think things are funny that are not funny. If you notice that, like Gen Zers, somebody will say banana and everybody starts laughing. I'm like, what's funny about bananas? I don't understand that, right? And but in college they start to make sense. So when she went to Columbia, she was a track star at Columbia, really great athlete, and I would go visit, and I noticed like about her freshman sophomore year, we start having these great conversations because I'm a college professor and she was a college student. So we would talk about these issues and all these things happening in the world, and it became much more fun. Same thing is happening with our freshmen in our house. Like she came back and she's just sitting there giving me all these theories and ideas about politics. And I'm like, really? Okay, so tell me more. And she goes to Tuskegee, so she's getting some good stuff. And because Tuskegee don't raise no idiots. And I just loved it. I'm like, so tell me more. Like, okay, what else is going on? So anyway, college is cool, right? But here's the problem with college. Let's get back to the economics. College is a problem because it violates one fundamental rule of investing in America. And the fundamental rule of investing is that debt is not a bad thing. But if you take on too much debt in order to make an investment, then debt can become very toxic, right? Companies borrow money all the time to make an investment. It's not uncommon for a company to say, I think we can go make another $1 million. Let's go borrow $100,000 or $200,000 to make this happen. But if you get to the point where you're paying too much for an asset, if you're over borrowing for an asset, then not only does it max out your risk, but it can put you underwater, right? Like if you have a house that is worth $300,000, you can be in a better financial position than another person who owns a house that's worth $1 million. Because if the person that owns the $1 million house borrowed 1.5 million to buy that house, then they're underwater by $500,000. Whereas if you have 100% equity in a $300,000 house, then you're better off than they are. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because you own your house. They don't own their house. They just live in it. The bank owns their house until they pay it off. right? So really, when you think about this, this is really interesting. When you borrow to go to college, the debt can get so high that you have a lot of young people that are literally paying a mortgage and don't even own a house. You're paying a mortgage on an invisible house. Buying one house is hard. Buying two houses is really hard. It's really hard. So this is the dilemma that they run up against is that you're paying a mortgage on this invisible house, and the amount that you borrowed for the house might be considered to be more than what you should have borrowed. So the student loan is not the problem. It's the magnitude of the loan that's the issue. It's the fact that you shouldn't have went, maybe 20,000 in debt would have made sense, but you're 100,000 in debt. That doesn't make sense. Some of y'all in here, I bet you have three, four, two, three, $400,000. I've seen student loans as high as $700,000. And what all that is it's a bad business investment. That's what it is. It's you borrowed more than the asset was worth, and it's like overpaying for a stock, right? And it's not about the quality of the company. If I buy Nvidia stock, Nvidia is the most powerful, wealthiest company on the entire planet. But if Nvidia stock suddenly jumps by 40% and I pay, 170 for a stock that's only worth 120, I don't care how you shape it up. That's a bad investment. Do you understand? Right? That's a bad move. That's not a good move because you're supposed to sell things for more than what you paid for them, or you're supposed to receive more than you put in. That's what investing's supposed to do. It's supposed to give you back more than what you put in. Does that make sense? Right? So student loan debt in general, it's the politics behind it are problematic. And I love thinking about just the trail. Like, how do we even get here? But the real criminal in all this, in my opinion, is the fact that the cost of colleges has gotten so high. So college is not the culprit here. I know that a lot of you mentioned things like trade schools and stuff like that, which I think are great. But there's nothing about trade school that makes it inherently always unconditionally better than going to college, right? Because trade schools can screw you too. In case you don't know, there are trade schools out there that will put you so deep in debt that I don't care how hard you work as a plumber or a carpenter, you're still going to be paying those loans back too. It's just trade schools haven't gotten in on the hustle as much as the universities have, which is what makes it all just almost criminal to me in terms of what they do to these young people. So the typical college grad leaves school with about 30,000 in debt. And what's interesting is that when you tack in penalties and fees, the debt can just grow. Debt grows like a fungus. The mathematics behind how money grows, how a debt will grow, is similar to like biology, right? So the same way you can mathematically calculate how many weeds or how much the weeds will grow in a yard if you don't kill the weeds, interest and penalties is kind of like financial weeds that can grow onto a debt. So the longer you let it fester, it becomes like that food you leave that you pull out of the refrigerator, you leave it on the counter for 3 or 4 weeks or 6 weeks. When I went to Germany, I worked for the Center for European Economic Research in Germany, and I was gone for 6 weeks. And I lived with my brother, and I was the only coffee drinker in the house. And I forgot that the coffee pot had a little coffee in it before I left. So this son of a bitch walks by the coffee maker every morning and didn't even think about it. And the coffee's just sitting there. So for 6 weeks, this coffee was sitting in this pot. By the time I got home, all this nasty mold and everything had grown inside the coffee pot because my brother didn't empty the coffee pot. So I come home, I'm ready to make a cup of coffee, and I see this green, gunky, nasty, and I'm like, why didn't you change the coffee pot? He's like, because I don't drink coffee. I didn't even look at it. I'm like, dude, what are you talking? So this is what happens with interest and penalties. This is what happens when you neglect student loans. This is what happens when you neglect your health. This is what happens when you neglect your finances. And so really the biggest thing I would say is that if you have a problem, the best way to really deal with it is to really deal with it. Ignoring it feels okay temporarily, but it doesn't feel good when you finally have to deal with it because you have a health problem. You don't go to the doctor because you don't like going to the doctors, and I get all that. But then by the time you deal with it, it's too far gone for you to fix it. Well, student loans are kind of the same way. When you kind of let them sit there, this is why you have a lot of people that owe student loan debt who owe more when they're 60 years old than they owed when they were 25 or 30. And it don't make no sense because you ain't been in college since you were in your 20s. So how is it that you owe more debt at 60 than you owed when you were 25. Well, because the debt was allowed to fester and get moldy, and bacteria grew on the debt. Just like that coffee pot, in Germany, because my brother is too lazy to look over and change the damn pot. So my point is to say that with student loan debt, this is a problem that a lot of African American college students have, and this is the most just insidious part of the whole black wealth journey, is that we were doing it wrong. White people convinced us that, hey, if you go to our schools, give us all your money, give us whatever little wealth you got, give it to us, trust us with it, right? So spend all your money sending your kids to our schools, and then on top of that, we need you to borrow against your future. So don't just give us all the wealth you have, give us all the wealth you're gonna make. And then if you trust us, because we're so trustworthy, we just treated you people so well all this time, then we will give you back more than what you're giving us. I mean, tell me, do I sound radical or cynical when I say this? I probably do, but am I lying? Am I lying? I mean, really, that's what it is. We really, and I'm sorry if you don't, if you're different. I get it. I know this, can't help it, but this is what I see. It's like we're trusting. We will go and give all the money we got to some big white university that really don't even halfway want black kids there in the first place. They don't hire black professors ever. They'll bring in a ton of black basketball and football players, but they don't want no black professors, and they kind of want the black students, but not really, right? And a lot of black students. I remember UCLA. I remember the black males at UCLA were protesting online because of how badly they were being treated at UCLA. The USC students were talking about being held at gunpoint on campus, and just the crazy stuff like that, right? And that's why I was happy that our most recent college student went to Tuskegee, because I'm like, gosh, I'm glad she picked a black school. I wish I'd known to pick one, because I didn't have a great college experience. But literally, this is how the transaction occurs, and then what happens is, surprise, surprise, your wealth doesn't go up, it goes down. And these are, the smartest in your community. So if the smartest people in your community are dying with a negative net worth, then what do you think is going to happen to the community? Like, how do you think that the community's wealth is going to go up if the best and brightest and greatest and most intelligent people in your community are being sucked into a rope-a-dope? They're being pulled into a scenario that's going to increase their debt, not reduce it. And also, they're being limited because they're being trained to chase jobs instead of actually build real wealth and own assets and start businesses. I mean, your smartest kids in your classes should be the ones that are actually leading. The idea that, I mean, just the fundamental stupid idea that black leadership should be chosen by white media, right there, that's the craziest, most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. But literally, they'll put a Negro on TV or give some dumb Negro a record deal, and we'll think that that's a black leader because we saw him on MTV or whatever. Diddy was a black leader for a very long time, in case you don't recall. And so your leadership is just misled and misguided, and the people that really should be leading are either not being heard, or they don't even have the courage nor the capability to truly lead. Your best leaders, in my view, if you ask me like who should be really leading the black community, it should be men like the Marcus Garveys of the community. The Marcus Garveys. And remember, it's not a coincidence that white public schools don't teach black children about Marcus Garvey. Because Marcus Garvey, we were reading Garvey's book this week. We in Powernomics training every Wednesday night. We started reading his book. I mean, Garvey was a person who took in all the knowledge he possibly could. He embraced the idea of thinking for himself. He was really into a very empowered form of negotiation and ownership. He wanted to own assets. He didn't want to go work for you. He wasn't trying to be your employee. He was trying to run the damn company. Right? These individuals, and they do exist. We just have to cultivate them. What we do is we shrink them. We say, no, 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 don't be out here trying to start nothing of your own. Just go get a job, and let someone else tell you what to do. Right? Even though you could drive the car better than them, let them drive the car, and then they'll crash it and kill you. And there's nothing you can do about it. But literally, if you read Garvey's book, it's called A Message to the People. This is the one I know about it. I have to find out about his other work. But he literally says things like this. Here's what he says in page 82, lesson 14. He says, every man is his own responsibility in life. Just that one sentence is like powerful. How many people do you know go through life blaming other people for everything that's wrong? Especially the men. I mean, come on, what's wrong with your punk ass? You up here 42 years old and saying the reason you're failing is because your mama didn't do something when you were six. You're not six, you're 42. Stop it. Right? Nature never made anyone dually but singly. Therefore, you have your single responsibility. The purpose of life is to live fully. Hence, the single life must be complete, and in fact, it is so with every man. Therefore, it is the duty of every man to fall back on himself for what he wants. Self reliance. Black self reliance. Why is that a radical concept? Ain't nothing radical about that. It's necessary. It's just funny I said it's necessary because literally his next sentence starts with the words, it is necessary. How isn't that strange? It is necessary for a man to use all of his faculties for his own protection. He always has a reserve of self expression and action upon which to fall to protect and defend himself. Defend. Therefore, he must develop his faculties to do things thoroughly for himself. He must rely upon himself first for initiating all those things that may contribute to his personal well being. Whatever he wants to do should first come from himself, as he should. That's leadership. Leaders lead, as he should know what is best for himself. Advice may be helpful, but only to the extent that you have reason and judgment enough to see the value of the advice. Otherwise, it may be harmful. That just that little one paragraph that I randomly grabbed from this man's book is enough to change a person's life because we get so much bad advice from people who have sinister motivations. So the student loan crisis in the black community largely is driven by bad economic advice. It's a massive economic rat trap that has financially incarcerated millions of people. And so let's get back to the specifics of it. So right now, um, the Department of Education just announced plans to expand their federal wage garnishment for defaulted student loans, allowing up to 15% of disposable income to be withheld. So up to 15% of your disposable income. That's I don't know how they calculate disposable income, but that's what they're saying. But there are limits. This change applies to borrowers who have been in default for extended periods and have not engaged in rehabilitation or repayment plans. That's a critical caveat. So there are ways to do rehabilitation, stuff like that. You can go in and talk to them, kind of turn yourself in and work with them. And I guarantee you it won't be as difficult as it sounds. Um, the wage garnishment policy could affect millions of borrowers, especially those with long-term unpaid balances. Current rules limit garnishment in some cases or required additional notices. The new policy reduces procedural protections before the garnishment starts. In the fashion of the Trump administration, they tend to lean in the direction of deregulation. So some of the agencies that might be there to protect consumers, like the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, have pretty much been made, toothless. So they're not gonna the consumer protections that existed before don't exist like they used to. Um, let's see here. Current employers will be required to deduct payments directly from paychecks once garnishment orders are issued. Current rules limit garnishment in some cases or required additional notices. The new policy reduces procedural protections. Okay, I mentioned that. The administration claims the change will reduce defaults and push borrowers into income-driven repayment plans. So it looks like they're trying to push people into these repayment plans that are connected to income. Critics argue that the policy could disproportionately impact low income borrowers and workers of color, of course, absolutely, 100%. So, here are some practical recommendations. One, contact your loan servicer immediately. I think it's studentaid.gov. Find out how much you owe. The moment you receive a garnishment notice, call the servicer to discuss repayment options before deductions begin. So deal with the virus before it becomes a fungus. Enroll in an income-driven repayment plan. These plans can reduce payments to a small percentage of income and often stop garnishment once they are approved. Start loan repayment if you're in default. So make a series of on-time rehab payments that can remove your loan from default and halt the garnishment. So if you can only be garnished if you're in default, you can get out of default if you go to rehab. Next, request a hardship hearing. You can actually request a hearing. So if you get a garnishment notice, you request a hearing. or review. So you have the right to challenge the garnishment if it causes financial hardship. I mean, and sometimes just challenging something can just slow things down a little bit. Like a lot of people don't know that on your credit report, you can challenge every single debt on your credit report. You can say, I don't remember this, verify this, verify this, verify this, verify this. So you're pushing the ball back in their court. And if they don't verify it within a certain amount of time, they have to remove it. I've seen people get a lot of stuff removed from their credit report just by challenging everything that they see, everything they're not sure about. Um, let's see here. And then there are some nonprofit resources out there. There's the Federal Student Aid Ombudsman Group, Federal Student Aid Ombudsman Group. They also have nonprofit credit counselors out there. They can maybe help with this issue as well. But I think that what really bothers me about all this is that this is just a standard capitalist financial trap. They pretend to do something good for you, and then it turns out to be something bad. That's why I don't have a lot of trust for the government, to be honest with you. So what I believe, I would argue, and I got to research this to be more specific, but I believe that the student loan debt crisis started maybe 40 years ago, back when college was somewhat affordable. Back in maybe the 70s and 80s and even the 90s, you could pay for college with, by working a couple of jobs. When I started, anybody remember those days? Like when I was in college, University of Kentucky, I got my tuition bill, and I remember working two jobs to pay the rest of my bill. Right? College was not cheap, but it wasn't some number that just seemed unbelievably outrageous. It was like a number where I was like, "Ooh, I need 2 months to get the money together," but I could do it, right? And so what they did, where they claimed to be helping people, was they forget they don't understand how inflation works. That's what happens. And this happens all the time. Like anytime someone doesn't understand economics, they'll do something. Well, they'll just say like, okay, everything should be free, or we're gonna just print all the money that we need. I think Zimbabwe tried that. The president tried to. He was like, well, if we need more money, we'll just print more money. And then suddenly you got to the point where, a loaf of bread would cost $10 million or something because there was just so much money out there, right? So in the Biden administration, the mistake they made was in the pandemic, they kept on just pumping money out to deal with the what they thought was going to be an economic collapse, and it wasn't. And the economists said, stop doing that. Stop pushing out stimulus. We know that people are going to vote for you because of this. They're going to be happy, but they're going to have an inflation problem. And anybody remember this? Right after that occurred, about a year later, inflation was out of control. That became the biggest threat to the U.S. economy that was out there. And all these economists, guys like Muhammad El Arian and people like that, were saying, this is what we told you was going to happen. Jeremy Siegel at Wharton said, what are they doing? This is crazy. But they do that because it sounds good. It sounds good to say, oh, we're going to spend money. We're going to give money to everybody, right? And then it sounds good until economic reality hits. So what they did was they decided, okay, we're going to give out all these student loans to people because we want college to be affordable for everyone. And so we're going to just loan as much money as you need. And again, forget it because they forgot how capitalism works. What happens is, so the universities are like rubbing their hands like Birdman. Birdman, if you know hip hop, Birdman does this because he wants that money. And so the universities were sitting there basically saying, oh, great. So since now we have an infinite supply of money coming to these students, then we can hike up the price of tuition to whatever we want. Because a college degree is seen in economics as what they call an inelastic commodity. And an inelastic commodity is a commodity where people will still buy it no matter what the price is, right? Like some things, if you increase the price too much, people will stop buying it. They won't get any more, right? But some stuff, it doesn't matter. Like think of crack, right? If the price of crack is like $10 a gram and I increase the price to $20 a gram, crackheads are still gonna pay it because I mean they need their crack, right? Crack is whack, but it's essential once you get the habit, right? So universities are kind of like educational crack, right? So basically we were raised in a society where we're taught that everybody has to get an education. You have to go to college, you have to go to college, you have to go to college, you have to go to college. And then you lean into instant gratification where you go to some stupid little 18-year-old and you say, look, hey, you can come to college and have fun and the university is beautiful and you can go to all the parties and get all the girls, just sign here. right? Just sign away your future, and you're 18, so you feel like 30, being 30 years old is like, oh, I'll be an old man. It won't matter. So you'll sign anything, and this is a common tactic. So then next thing you know, you sign a deal with the devil, and you got all these student loans that are piled up, and then you keep on. It's like delay, 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 and next thing you know, the fungus and the mold has grown onto the debt. So you got penalties and fees and everything else that happens because we tend to delay. We tend to seek instant gratification by delaying discomfort, right? And next thing you know, you're 45 years old and you got a wife and two kids, and you're still dealing with student loans from 1998 or 2005 or something like that. And this is common, and now the government, because they work with the capitalists, they work with the banks. So then years later, when they started seeing the student loan crisis blow up, then they start saying, well, people are defaulting on their loans, they're not repaying the loans, they're trying to declare bankruptcy and all that. So the banks, because they own the politicians don't work for you, they work for the corporations. So the banks go to the politicians, Democrat, Republican, and say, we need you to make a law that says that these people are going to be trapped in this debt, that they have to repay it. We're going to force it. We're going to pull blood out of a turnip. We're going to make them pay it, even if they can't afford it, even if they have to be homeless, even if they can't eat, even if they can't feed their kids, even if they have to get a second job, they're going to have to repay. So they made the law that says that you cannot write off that student loan debt. It becomes the financial STD that will never go away. And Elizabeth Warren, was one of the few politicians who said, "Why would you do this? Because you're going to create a student loan debt crisis unlike anything anybody's ever seen." Of course, they didn't care, and they passed it, and now you've got a student loan debt crisis unlike anything anyone's ever seen. So if you ask me, like, who was my favorite Democratic politicians, it would be Elizabeth Warren because she's smart. I don't agree with everything I hear, but she's somebody that seems to be able to think things through, and I like the Republicans that also understand that there's no such thing as a free lunch. The ones who understand, like, look, we got to raise certain taxes. We're going to have to have some fiscal responsibility, and we can't just keep on spending money forever. And so, long story short, this is how we got to where we are now. So how do you deal with this? How do you fix this? Well, first thing is there's the long-term generational issue of, like, what do I tell my kids? How do I prepare them for this? First thing is I explain all this to them and let them know, like, education is essential, but college is not. Or if we do go to college, we're not going to overpay. I have a lot of money put into trust funds for my nieces, nephews, grandkids, everybody else. I'm not. I literally will put in there. You will not spend none of my money giving it all to some stupid university. I'll pay for books or food. I ain't paying tuition. No, 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 no. You better get you a scholarship. I am not gonna pay crazy amount, or maybe I'll pay a little bit of tuition, like I'll give you up to a certain amount, but I'm not gonna have you rip through my generational wealth paying $400,000 for a degree that really ain't worth nothing but 30,000 bucks. I'm not doing that, right? And because this is a wealth transfer. This is a Universities are the biggest thug criminal dope dealers I've ever seen in my life. They are literally sucking the financial lifeblood out of people, and then they're taking this money, and they're all in a lot of these universities, for whatever reason, ended up in these like really bad black neighborhoods. And so they're then going and buying up all these black people's houses because they've got so much money. They are the Pablo Escobars of the educational system of the American economy. They're oversupplied with cash, just like Pablo. Pablo had so much cash he didn't know what to do with it. The rats would eat $1 billion or two. I think he had 2 billion a year. He lost because the rats would just eat the money, right? So they got an oversupply of cash. So they're money laundering all throughout the economy and buying all this real estate because they have so much money they don't know what to do with it. They in fact there was charts out there that show that when you look at the number of administrators, meaning people that just did administrative stuff, like I am the director of student happiness or whatever, right? The number of administrative roles at the universities, once they started supplying all this extra cash flow and pumping all this economic fuel into their little ecosystem, the number of administrative roles skyrocketed relative to the number of actual faculty positions. So they're not giving the money to the professors or kicking it back to the students. They're creating these wasteful, stupid administrative roles. They're building $100 million football stadiums. They're paying football coaches $12 million a year. And they're doing all this on the back backs of hardworking people who are just trying to get a little piece of the American dream. I think that's bullshit. I hate it. It's the worst thing about this system. So I think education is essential. I just think you have to really sort of understand the difference between an education in the 21st century versus an education in the 20th century. 20th century education was just very different. You live in the age of artificial intelligence. You have the whole internet. You got professors like me that you can come talk to every single day. I'm just as qualified as I was when I was on the faculty at Syracuse University. And so I think that when you pull all that together and you have the desire to learn, that's it, the desire to learn and the willingness to invest the time, you can learn as much, if not more, by just diving into the internet every single day and learning everything you can as you could by signing up for 4 years at a university. So the learning's not really typically the big issue. Now, what is a dividing factor, what is an area of value being provided could be professional degrees. If I want to be a lawyer, I got to go to school to do that. If I want to be a nurse, I got to go to school to do that. If I want to go and be a medical doctor, I got to go to school to do that. If I want to be a social worker, I need a license, right? So all these things might justify some reasonable amount of money paid toward this educational process. But I personally think that there's so many students that go to school just because they were falsely led to believe that if I just go to school and I just sit there at this university for 4 years and show up with a piece of paper, that that's going to increase my chances of getting economic opportunities. And I would say that people that think that way are living in a real fantasy land. And no one ever told them about artificial intelligence and how AI is stealing tons of jobs from tons of people, but it's mostly stealing jobs from young college graduates who can't do anything other than claim that they own a piece of paper that means that they're somehow qualified. The piece of paper doesn't do it anymore. It's about having real skill and really being able to show you can really add real value to an organization. If you can do that, then yes, someone will definitely hire you. Good, because employers are always looking for ways to extend the bottom line. But if you just show up talking about I went to school and this is what, nobody will care about all that stuff. I don't even, when people work for me, I don't even ask them if they went to college. I just try to figure out if they know how to do the job and solve the problem that I have. And I'm just telling you, I hired 2 or 3 people this year to do certain things for me. Not one of those people I hired do I ever recall saying, "Well, where did you go to college? Can I see your credentials? What classes did you take? What were your grades in those classes?" I don't give a damn about that. It's like I got a problem. Can you help me solve this problem? If the answer is yes, then what's it going to cost me? That really, and I think that that economic reality is a really important thing to train kids on, because think about it, most black kids that go to college, they're going to college because they want to make more money. They want to have a better future. What does a better future look like? Does it include money? Yeah. Okay, well, if it includes money, then you should probably spend some time studying money and where money is, how to get money. Smartest black man I ever met, one of the smartest, was that guy I met when I spoke at I spoke at the National Black Chamber of Commerce event, and the limo driver was this guy who ran his own business, and he owned the limo, he owned the limo company. And I said, "Well, what do you do for a living?" He said, "I make money." And I said, "What do you mean you make money?" He said, I got a car wash, I have the limo service." And he just said, I know how to make money." And I said, "Really?" I said, "Okay." And I heard his story, and what he said was, he said, "Back in the day, my daddy used to work at the steel mill, and he lost his job because all the steel mill jobs disappeared." And he said that after that, I saw my father fall apart because he didn't have a purpose anymore. He said that's when they started. He said in the black community, that's when we started having winos and guys that would just sit around and drink all day because they didn't have any purpose anymore. Because he said he believes, and I agree, that a man's got to have a reason to get up every day and not sit around and just drink and smoke and have sex and waste time and do pleasure seeking behavior. You have to have a purpose. He said, so when I saw that with my father, he said, I realized I'm never going to do that. I'm never going to be so dependent on somebody else that I can't find my purpose. And so he said, I don't want a career. I don't need a job. He said, I'm just going to, I know how to make some money. And I personally think that that's the best approach. I think teach your kids how to make some money and then let them decide if they want to have a career or whatever. They can be a doctor, dentist, lawyer, and all these things. It doesn't cut those things off. It just helps them understand like what's the main thing. The main thing becomes the main thing. There ain't nothing about serving white people that somehow links you to economic opportunity. Like that's not a requirement. You can still be free and independent and smart and capable and not have to deal with the nonsense every day. And in fact, I dare say that the more they master the finances and the economics and investing as children, the more freedom they'll be able to have to determine exactly how they want to navigate this economic system. This system's not for everybody. Getting up and going to work every day is not for everybody. You know, that stress on the job and the corporate plantation is not for everybody. Some people can't take it. Some people have significant mental health crises because of the stress they endure at work. Some people, end up drinking and using drugs and can't sleep at night and have anxiety and got to see a therapist and all that. And that comes from that racial microaggression and all these other things. And you don't have to deal with those things, but unfortunately, if no one prepares you and gives you other alternatives or shows you other ways of survival, then you're going to be stuck in all that, right? So anyway, moving on. One thing I want to mention really quick, in case you didn't hear, Chanel's in the chat, and if you want to join us, we start our coin stock options training on January 8th. So if you'd like to be part of Coin, and this is where I cover options from A to Z, feel free to look at that link that Chanel shares. And if you're not inside the Zoom, you can also go to drboycecoin.com if you're interested in joining that. Also, she's got the link if you want to apply for the mastermind. And tonight at 8:30, we're doing an economic elevation circle. And this is where we have a circle where we get together and we talk about our economic future. And we have it's a back and forth kind of dialogue. We play games, stuff like that. But then the goal of the game is to form our 100-year plan for our families. And so if you're not on the text list, make sure you get on the text list. I'm going to send you guys a link where you can actually get a discount to join, significant discount, because you're here in the morning, and I'll text this to you. So make sure you text the word morning to the number 87948. So text morning to 87948, and you can get a discount. And actually, I'll put the link in here as well if you want to just grab this now. This reduces the annual fee from $7.99 to $2.99 for those of you that are interested in participating. So here it is. I put the link in the chat, so feel free to take a look at the Economic Elevation Circle. Everything's recorded also, so if you can't make it, then you can also watch the recording and bring your whole family. So feel free to join us in the Economic Elevation Circle. Now, one thing I wanted to also share was there was something that I put on my Instagram. By the way, did you all know that that video I did with Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass and all that? I think it's going a little bit viral. I think it's got about like over 100,000 views on Instagram and 350,000 views on Facebook. So apparently, I don't know. I guess it struck a chord with some people. I have no idea. But anyway, I'm going to share some more stuff really quickly. One thing I want to mention is I had you all share your B1 stories to talk about what you're doing in your families that are changing the narrative. And this is from Margaret Tulloch Weir. Tulloch Weir. I hope I pronounced that right. And oh no, I'm sorry, Margaret. She said keep it anonymous. Oh, I'm so sorry, Margaret. Well, I'm not gonna say keep saying her name because that's you gotta read it though, Margaret. So I keep I'm gonna just read it. I hope that's okay. She says, my sister introduced me to the Black Business School in 2024. I started listening to Dr. Boyce daily. Since then, I have started automatic stock accounts for my grandson. I also started two other brokerage accounts, which I am very happy with. Thank you, Dr. Boyce and the Black Business School. I wish I had someone teach me that. What I am learning from Dr. Boyce earlier in life, I truly appreciate all you're doing for my family. Good, good. I'm very happy for you. So here's what she's doing. I'm not gonna say her name again because I feel kind of bad because she did say keep it anonymous, and I'm sorry, I read that too late. But she's doing something that I really think everybody in here that's a parent or a grandparent, like if you do this, your kid's gonna be so grateful. They're gonna be so appreciative. Just get that little stock portfolio, and you don't even have to put it in their name. Just open something up that where you just make a commitment that you're gonna consistently put money in there. Like just like you pay a light bill, just like you pay your cell phone bill, just like you pay your rent, you're gonna pay your kids. I mean, why would you pay the landlord or the car dealer before you pay the kids, right? And you put the money in the account. And the thing about the about building capital is I was explaining this to my wife. I said having capital, it's like having a car. If I have a car, then I can use that car to get what I need. I can use the car to I know. So see, I keep on I keep on getting People like Margaret had one request. You're right, Calvin. I got her. I hope she can forgive me. Margaret, you know what? Email support at theblackbusinessschool.com and they'll give you something free because I feel bad. But the story was so good. I had to share it. I just think I was inspired by it. So forgive me for that. Next time I'll be more careful. But basically, wealth is like a car. Capital is like a car, right? So if I have a car and I need money and someone says, okay, drive your car and go pick up a pizza and I'll give you $10 for picking up the pizza, then that's me using my capital to make money. And there's nothing about that capital that says it should be depleted. There's nothing about having a car that says I should only have a car for 6 months or until I drive it 8 times or whatever. I can take care of that car, right? I can maintain that car, right? And then I can pass that car down to my kids. And so, and the only difference is with capital, though, your capital can actually grow. It can actually become, bigger than it was before, right? So, or maybe with the car, the money I make with the car, I invest and I get 2 cars, and next thing you know, I have 10 cars. So ultimately, when you're building capital, you're not just building it for other people, you're building it for yourself too. So you build up the car, you drive it, you use it, and then when you're ready, you give that car to the person that's behind you so they can have a car too, so that everybody ain't out here taking the bus. Like we're out here taking the financial bus because nobody left us a car because everybody thinks that you're only supposed to go and save up enough money to get another bus ticket, and nobody's saying, well, how about we save up enough money to get a car so that we can pass that car on to the children and make sure the babies have a ride just like we had a ride. Do you understand what I'm saying? Right? So you don't have to work for money. You're not supposed to really have to work for money your whole entire life. That's a construct that was created mainly because they don't really want you to know how the Rockefellers and people like that do things. If you're a Rockefeller, you don't work for anything. They already did the work for you. Your job at that point is not to work for something new. Your job is to preserve something old. That's what the Rockefellers' goal is. The Rockefellers have a whole systematic setup where they pretty much say, look, you can live well off of the great work that John D. Rockefeller did over 100 years ago, but you're going to have to follow certain rules, a code of conduct, and you can't blow it up for everybody else. You got to preserve for the person behind you. And as long as you do that, then you're good because he built the car. We can all ride in the car, but we're not going to let you wreck the car. Do you understand? So you got to preserve the car. You got to take care of it, keep it clean, change the oil, put the gas in it, get the tune-ups. That way the car is preserved so everybody can use it. Okay? Because you got some people out here that are not conscious. They'll crash the car. Right? So let's take a quick trip to Instagram. And I'll just show you my Instagram shenanigans. So here I just did this. This is just a little reminder. This is something I believe in strongly. So I just have images of me holding this signs up like this. Black college graduates need to own businesses, not just chase jobs. I hate the fact that we train millions of our young people to go work for white people. That just irritates the heck out of me because if that's what you want, then don't complain about abuse because you're begging for the abuse. The worst kind of abuse is when someone economically dominates you. Then they get to tell you what to do because they control whether or not you get to eat. The same people that have the ability to feed you are the ones that have the ability to starve you. So why don't ever put yourself in a position where others can starve you? And by the way, if you want shirts like this, Black Wealth Matters, there's the website, wokeblacktees.com. Feel free to go check it out. Let's see what else is here. Oh, this is an interesting one, right? This is one I put up where I was talking about a tax that is on black families, and nobody talks about this black tax. And I'm gonna go through this really quickly because we're almost at our hour, but I wanted to show you this. So first off, it starts with supporting everybody except yourself. Does anybody go through that, right? Where you're doing well, and because you're doing well, and everyone else is so determined to not do well, everyone else is into such defeatist thinking that you end up becoming the superhero for all the people that don't see the hero in themselves. That's how I kind of see it. Right? Because you went to school and worked hard and did all these things. Anybody could have done it, but you were the one who actually did it. Then all the people who believe that success is based solely on luck or getting blessed by Jesus or something, they come to you and talk about how they're having such a hard time and they can't make it. And because you have this survivor's guilt, you step in and you're saving all these people, and that becomes very draining for you. A lot of families have that one superhero. That movie Soul Food, with where Vanessa Williams' character made all the money, but she was upset because she had all these people in her family that were always asking her for money and making her pay for everything. That's kind of a thing that happens in a lot of families, and it's I think what irritates me is that it's like when I hear about somebody, it's like, oh, I'm down and out again, and you're so lucky, and I'm like, no, I'm not lucky. I was right where you were, and I just made a different decision than you. You could have made the same choice, but this is where I think we have to be really careful about how we talk about what it means to be black, because there are so many people that are fed a narrative that says that because you're black you're supposed to suffer, because you're black you're supposed to fail, because you're black you're supposed to always be struggling. So those who break out of that end up getting burdened by those who are still stuck in this black negativity, this just horrible anti-black thinking, and it drives me crazy. So here's another part, that generosity, it quietly delays your ability to save, invest, and own things for yourself. So you can't do as much for yourself because you're doing so much for other people, right? Like because you're so busy saving other people, when it comes time for you to do something for you, you can't do it. And that's really hard. Or maybe you feel selfish if you do. And then we call it love, but over time it does become a financial drain. And it gets to the point where you just the weight becomes very heavy. And I encourage you to talk to your therapist about it and find a way to strike the balance that's going to really work for you. I think it's wonderful to help other people, because if you're talented and you're successful, why wouldn't you help other people? But I think having that balance is really essential. But take it from somebody. I get people call me to ask me to borrow money about six. People call me and ask me for money about 6, 7 times a week, right? So, and I haven't got it figured all out. I don't. We all struggle with this, and I don't think it ever really goes away. But you get better at it, right? So love doesn't mean sacrificing your future. Wealth definitely requires boundaries. One aspect of wealth protection certainly means protecting yourself from all the people that are going to try to climb on your back because you're successful. So that's another aspect of wealth protection that is uniquely black that a lot of other people don't have to go through. But the boundaries can't just be great big walls where you cut off all the people you love. I don't think those are appropriate boundaries, but the boundaries can't be wide open where anybody and everybody's coming in and draining you. That's just too much. Now, let's see. Now this is funny. This will make maybe this will make you laugh. I have no idea. I just did it because I just was thinking about Christmas in the 80s. So let me show you this. Here you go. Enough to put forth the.
I heard in 2025, people argue online instead of at the dinner table. We just passed the cornbread.
We didn't have group chats. If you had something to say, you said it to someone's face.
In the 80s, Christmas didn't have Wi-Fi, and somehow we still talk to each other.
Back then, we argued over the last slice of pie, not politics on Facebook.
In the 80s, kids played outside all day, and nobody needed therapy for it.
In the 80s, Christmas was about family, not followers.
My favorite part was where the lady said kids played outside all day and nobody needed therapy for it. I think that was the one that made me laugh. Every time I watch it, I start laughing because Lord, I mean, I don't know. I think therapy is good, but sometimes you can OD on therapy. I really believe that. Like when they got you hating your parents, and there's a whole group now. There's literally, like, I saw a group on Instagram where this mother got thousands and thousands of other mothers together who are protesting against all these Gen Zers who have decided to disown their parents because they feel like whatever the parent did when they were younger was, so inappropriate that they can't ever forgive them because you traumatized me and I don't need you. I just need my followers or whatever. And I'm not saying that trauma is something to overlook. And I do think that we went through some experiences that, you know, were not cool, right? Like I got whoopings. Anybody else get whoopings when you were growing up, or is it only me? I got whoopings, and I don't think the whoopings were the best way to solve that problem. I don't. My mother was told by my grandfather that if you don't whoop him now, then the police are going to whoop him and they're going to kill him, and then he's going to get whooped in prison. And so if you want, the difference is you can stop, you can decide when to stop. But if he gets out here in the streets, then gangsters will whoop him, police will whoop him, and the criminal justice system will whoop him, other inmates will whoop him and maybe rape him. So you probably want to go ahead and nip that in the bud. Now, mind you, did she have to go that far to do that? No, she didn't. But when I look back on my life and I say, how do I feel about that with my mother? Yeah, mama, we probably could have talked it out. Maybe there's some other parenting you could have done. But also, my mother was a baby when she gave birth to me. She was 17, 18 years old, so she didn't know, right? So that balance of giving that grace, I just don't see that. Sometimes when people are like just mad, and I don't understand that. So so I don't whoop my kids. We did not bring that into this generation. Um, but at the same time, though, I do think that there's been a loss of respect for elders that we had growing up. I really think there were things like, did you see in Chicago where all the kids got together and beat up the mama and beat up the son, right? And so in my view, I'm thinking, well, what kind of future are those children going to have? Those children have already been arrested. They're already in the criminal justice system. The things that happen to young people in prison are 1,000 times worse than what your grandmother would have gave. I remember my grandma whooped me one time because I had left the house and walked 2 miles away from the house or something because I was curious. And I remember I was so mad at her for when she whooped me because I didn't know why she did it. I remember hating her for in that moment. And again, I think there's a better way she could have done it. Like maybe she could have punished me and explained why, but that's just not how things were done at that time. And I don't know if they knew any better, right? They didn't all have the woke parenting that maybe people have now. But also, I don't think the woke parenting is always better. I think that when we talk about investing in kids, it's an inexact science, and I don't understand people not being able to give each other at least a little bit of grace when they evaluate that. So anyway, so yeah, but the other thing too, in terms of like that video about the 80s, if we want to relate it to wealth, it speaks back to something a consistent theme that I hope that you can relate to, which is that family is wealth. Family is wealth. And here's the thing, family is not just wealth, but family, every analogy I could give you about managing a portfolio of stocks, I could also use that same analogy to explain how you manage a portfolio of loved ones, right? Everything that it takes to run 5 or 6 businesses at the same time, um, you can use that analogy to apply it to dealing with several people that are in your life. All of it's the same. If I run 5 businesses, those businesses are going to stress me out. Some of those businesses are going to cost me money. Some of those businesses are going to be, do amazing things for my life and give me a great lifestyle. Some of the businesses, I might need to just declare bankruptcy and get that thing out the portfolio, right? So people are an important portfolio to maintain as well. So just like you have a portfolio of stocks, you have a portfolio of people. And anybody who owns stock, I know a lot of you do, you've seen this. You've seen your stock have good weeks, bad weeks, go up and go down, right? And that's why I tell you that when you're talking about sort of dealing with the stock, emotional intelligence is really important. People that don't have emotional intelligence are never good at managing a portfolio because the minute something happens that goes bad and they get triggered, they want to sell. I'm out of here. Those are the same people that cut off their relatives. Right? My sister, she gonna vote Democrat, and I told her that Trump is better, and so I ain't talking to my sister no more. Right? Like, okay, you can do that with your crazy ass, but you're gonna end up without a sister now. Now you've done irreversible damage to your relationship because you didn't know how to emotionally regulate and look at the bigger picture. The same thing applies when it comes to owning stock. If you freak out when your stock goes down 10 or 15%, then you probably shouldn't have owned it in the first place. But don't be mad when you sold the stock and then you watch the stock go up 30% later on. Right. So you got to decide, like, what are you committed to? And the things you're committed to are gonna require focus and resilience. You can't build wealth without resilience. Resilience is everything in wealth building. was emotional, the ability to be emotionally sturdy, right, in turbulent times is everything when it comes to wealth. You will never find a millionaire who can't tell you 1,000 stories about how they had to stay cool when stuff got real difficult. Millionaires don't, wealthy people who are doing really well, they don't freak out because something went wrong. So if freaking out and panicking and going crazy and running away and giving up and or whatever, a smoke hitting the crack pipe is your coping mechanism every time something goes wrong, then you might want to consider the benefits of things like therapy, because therapy, one of the best gifts that therapy does give you is the ability to identify your emotion and regulate it. Like, okay, I'm feeling some kind of way. All right, so okay, I'm not gonna overreact. Let me breathe. Let me let me go for a walk. Let me figure out what I got to do so I can make sure the main thing stays the main thing. And so the same emotional regulation that's required to maintain ownership of a stock is the same emotional regulation that I use to stay married. Right? It's all the same. It's all an investment. Well, my wife and my marriage, my family, that's an asset that I own, and I don't want to. I don't want to divest from that, right? But that doesn't mean it's not going to come without challenges, because everything does. It doesn't even mean it's always the perfect decision. Sometimes you stay committed to a stock that doesn't that isn't going to be a good investment long term. But if you don't stay committed, then you pretty much take away your chances of success. Your chances of success might have been as low as 70% before, but when you quit, you turn that 70% into 100%. Quitting is the best way to guarantee complete failure. Like the best way to guarantee you're not going to make any money is when you divest completely. If you just sell everything. So just decide, are you in or are you not? It's up to you to make that decision. Okay. All right. So one thing I should mention too, since I just respect my wife and love her, I want to mention also that she does have like these really cool healing products that she's put up on her site. Her website is healingwithdralicia.com. So just out of respect for her, because she does this stuff in our Black financial therapy department that's so valuable. So you can go to healingwithdralicia.com. She has like these, stuff that mostly women like, but I think men like it too. But it's like body butters and aromatherapy type stuff. So feel free to go to healingwithdralicia.com if you want to take a look. And also she does a weekly book club on relationships. And so if you want to join that, just text the word love to the number 87948. So text love to 87948 and you can connect with what Dr. Alicia's doing. And she's doing a retreat next year in Costa Rica, actually. And we're going to actually go to Costa Rica next week to check out the resort. It's a really beautiful place, and they got this really fancy cruise ship and everything that they're gonna have like a cruise and all that. So feel free to check out what she's doing. Healingwithdralicia.com. All right, guys. So have a great day. God bless you. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you all tomorrow morning, and or maybe tonight for Economic Elevation Circle. And I'll share the link one more time if you want to join. At a discount, and also you'll get a text later on this afternoon as well. All right, so have a good day, everybody. I'll see you soon. Take care now. Bye bye.